Joe, the NFL draft is on Thursday, and we're not a draft show, but it is all of college players going to be drafted. Where do you want to start off with? What are some topics you're looking forward to in the NFL draft?
Yeah, you said this isn't a draft show, yet I have one of the most notorious bad takes. We were just talking about bad takes that was clipped and will continuously be reclipped over probably the next 48 hours after Jayden Daniels is selected in the first round. I'm not going to elaborate on what that is. But I did want to talk about, though, because we do have ties to the draft because I cover it, and in your background, I think that Jayden Daniels is worth just discussing right now because his impact on how the first round is going to shake up is very significant. It is really, really significant how the rest of the ordering is going to play out depending on where he goes. And I'm referring to the fact of what was reported on by Adam Schefter on Friday.
Reported by here last week.
Yes. That the visit did not go well because they brought a bunch of guys in. I think they did like Top Golf or something stupid. And the quarterbacks that were there, most of them weren't really happy with being called on to be in that large of a setting, and they wanted more of a commitment. Jayden Daniels, according to Schefter, was one of those people. I think that the Commanders would be best off picking him because he fits best for Cliff Kingsbury's scheme. But it's very interesting to me now what the hell they do. I don't know if they trade out. I don't know if there is a plausible spot for them to do so.
I think that – so here's my opinion. It is what it is. I've given you my reasons. I tagged you in something about Caleb Williams this week, about him going on the Pivot podcast and all that stuff. Joe, I do think that Caleb Williams is obviously going number one. I think that's pretty much lock, set, done deal.
Yeah.
But I do agree with you. Jayden Daniels holds the keys to all of this. Joe, there are a lot of people in this draft that I know very personally, and you know this. There's not a conversation that's been had that I talked to anybody in the NFL who has told me that they have Drake May or anybody else above Jayden Daniels. The issue is that there is a massive disconnect between the GM and the Daniels camp. I think that they're going to take him.
So you think despite the tension, they're still just going to take him?
Here's what I think happened. And this is what I'm starting to now see through the clouds on this. I think they were testing him. I think that they were trying to see what he would do in a situation like this and see if he and if Jayden Daniels went. Hold on, I'm not
No. I'm not shaking my head at you. I'm shaking your
head at them.
Yes, I'm like that's insanely stupid. But sorry, continue.
What I think has happened, and it's more than even thinking. Just talking to people very closely, I think that they wanted to see if he would have been like, hey, man, if I'm the guy, then you better start treating me like the guy. And I think that Jayden Daniels put pressure on the Commanders. All right, watch this. And then when that happened, I would assume that his agent went out and started making more phone calls to different teams. Now, I can't back any of this up. I'm just saying what I think happened. Then I think Minnesota made a phone call. Then I think the New York Giants made a phone call. And I think that the team that nobody thinks is going to potentially try to trade up, the Raiders, I know that the Raiders are going to try to trade up and get him. And if you don't take him at 2, the Raiders, the Giants, and the Giants, and Minnesota will trade up to come get him. Because I do think New England's in play here. I think New England is looking for more of a rebuild and knows that they need a rebuild. With all that being said, he's getting selected at 2. It just depends on who the team is that's going to select him. So, Joe, you had a chance. I'm talking about NFL teams. You had a chance here. 31 teams, actually all 32 teams, had a chance to go up and get Lamar Jackson. Joe, I fully believe he's a more polished throwing Lamar Jackson. That's what I believe of him. And if you don't want to take him, good luck. Good luck.
I like the assessment that you have there. I do think that he's certainly more polished as a passer coming into the league. I don't blame Jayden Daniels and his agent for using this as leverage to get away from the Commanders, because I think that they have had such a bad track record of and I know it's new ownership. And I know that Josh Harris, who purchased the team, is trying to change the direction of it, but they still have a horrible history of quarterback success in their whole history of being a team, whole history. And especially recently, there's just been so much bouncing around on who the next guy is. I wouldn't want to be there if I was Jayden Daniels, and I would use any little bit of leverage, because he does have all the leverage in this situation. I think teams like Drake May. You don't think Jayden has any leverage?
No, because I think if the Commanders want to trade him, want to take him, they will take him. And there's nothing that he can do about it.
Well, actually, the other part of this too is if the Commanders want to stay put and they don't want to miss out on taking a quarterback, they could just take Drake May. Like I don't think that a lot of teams have much separation between Drake May and Jayden Daniels on their boards. I really don't.
And that is absolutely asinine.
I don't agree with that. I think that they're two different style players, and I think that they fit two different play styles.
Joe, name a game that Drake May has won in a big game and performed in a big-time situation. Can you name any?
He was at UNC, and he started 2 seasons. Jayden Daniels played 5 seasons of college football. They're two very different players.
One guy went to a team that had 39 scholarship players and beat Nick Saban on the last play.
Jayden Daniels is more ready to play and contribute now. Drake May is more of a project, but both have similar ceilings. Okay,
then,
I don't think that's an unreal thing to say.
That's ready to play now, because everybody needs in that position a quarterback that can play now.
But my point is that if the Commanders had such a bad visit with him and they don't think that the relationship is good, they could just say, we're going to take the guy who's the project and wait and be patient.
Well, then do it. Well, then do it. And you're going to get your ass burned. Good luck.
They might not have an option. They might have screwed up this whole bit. I just want to know why they thought that that was a good idea.
They wanted to test him.
But nobody has ever done something like that before.
By the way, Peters, the GM, was telling anybody who would listen last year that Jayden Daniels will be an undrafted free agent. Like this time last year was saying that he'd be an undrafted free agent. Well, if you would open – here's what I love you, and I don't mean this. Can I tell you because you're more in college than any of these NFL guys. Can I tell you what I hate about NFL people or draft NFL people? They don't watch the fucking games. They stat hunt. And if you're going to stat hunt a guy like Jayden Daniels, then you're an idiot. If you're going to stat hunt Drake May, I think you're an idiot.
Okay.
Joe, look what they're doing with J.J. McCarthy.
Well, you can't even stat hunt with him. I mean, that's a whole nother separate issue.
He throws the football really hard. He throws the football from a velocity standpoint harder than anybody. Whoopity-doo. So does Joe Milton.
Well, he's better than Joe Milton. But
so you believe.
You're right, though, to your point that it is the perfect measure of it being overthinking season. I think if somebody does end up sliding, though, it's probably going to be him. I don't think that the NFL is as hyped up on him as everyone thinks. Like
I agree with that.
It's just so crazy to me that everybody like Will Levis was further along and a better prospect coming in than J.J. McCarthy was, but he fell to the second round.
I fully agree. Look, I just think that Jayden Daniels gives you a different dynamic that nobody else in this draft, and Joe, maybe in the next decade, doesn't give you. I'm sorry. There's not a lot of guys that can run and move like him and that throw like him. I mean, I really do believe. I believe this in my bone of bones. I think he's a better, more polished Lamar Jackson. Are you going to miss out on the MVP? Joe, essentially, are you going to miss on a guy that legitimately has the same exact traits of an MVP?
Let's wait before we crown
no,
him.
I'm not saying he's an MVP.
Okay.
I said same traits as an MVP. If you ask all 32 teams right now if they would have taken Lamar Jackson knowing what they know now, would they have taken him? What do you think all of them would have said?
I think most are hubristic enough to say that they still wouldn't have taken him. But I get what you're saying, that you don't want to miss out on a talent like this that is rare and hard to keep up with. I think there are separate concerns for Jayden Daniels' play, that some people might not have him as the number 2 guy. I will say, though, I think him landing with the Raiders is the most interesting option. And I think that would be his best situation to come to, would be to play for Las Vegas.
If that happens, Antonio Pierce was a DC at Arizona State, recruited him. I think that there's a lot of familiarity there. Here's the problem with the Raiders. They're broke.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for them, they have already taken a flyer on a head coach. Do they want to take that big of a flyer on a quarterback, even though I think it's going to pan out? I do think that the Vikings or the Raiders are the teams that he would want to play for the most if he got to tell you. Now, I will tell you, and I know that they're in the same division, I really do not know what's going to happen with the New York Giants. I really don't.
Yeah, I don't know either. They've been brought up with all 3 quarterbacks. They have been talked about as just sitting where they are and sticking with Daniel Jones. And if they do take a quarterback, they're in a shit situation because they're paying Daniel Jones, and then they've got to figure out what to do with the rookie. So I mean, I wouldn't want to be a part of that circus.
Joe, I was told on their 30th visit, they went back to Jayden Daniels. The only thing that I can make of that is that they think that that Washington screwed this up so bad, and that they're going to trade the house with New England at 3. I think if the Giants get what they want, it would be this. I think it would be that what you said comes to fruition. Drake May goes at 2. Okay. Jayden Daniels falls at 3. And in a trade package with New England, they would send first-round picks and Daniel Jones, because Daniel Jones would be serviceable enough for them to rebuild. They get first-round picks. Okay.
They got a lot of cap room.
They got a lot of cap room. And they will be serviceable. But by the way, in Jacoby Brissett in New England.
Yeah, he's there too.
I think Jacoby Brissett, who's the middest? Who is more mid? And that's the bowl that they will play in. I do think that the Giants play more of a key factor in this than anybody is giving them credit for. And there's a lot of people talking about it behind the scenes.
You know what this also kind of reminds me of? How, remember 2 years ago? No, you remember how 2 years ago, it's not even close. 2 years ago, the Steelers, it was rumored the whole time
that they were going to move up.
No, and that they were going to take Malik Willis. It's like, they're going to take Malik Willis. They had him at dinner for this long, like he was there for a long, like all this stuff. Like they just super emphasis on Malik Willis. And they took a quarterback, but it was Kenny Pickett. It kind of reminds me of the fact that they have been so bad at hiding the JJ McCarthy visit, and like that got like leaked, and like Joe Shane apparently was pissed off because that was public information. Same thing with Drake May. They've been really vocal and connected to talking to him, and Jayden Daniels hasn't been brought up publicly once.
But I've been telling you behind the scenes for 2 weeks now.
Yeah.
That Joe, I am telling you,
they could be trying to drive up the market for those other guys so that they hope he slides.
I 100% believe that is the case. And by the way, guess what? They get Daniel Jones. They could get half of Daniel Jones's contract off of their books. And you get a 1-year rental if you're New England with Daniel Jones at $10 million to have a more than serviceable backup if it comes to it.
Right.
I think both teams win in that situation. And by the way, Mayo, New England, everybody gets to rebuild. And you know what else? I'm not going to overlook Robert Kraft calling Arthur Blank and saying, don't trust Bill Belichick. I think that Kraft knows that this is going to be a rebuild. So, all right.
Well, so that was one of the things I heard at the Combine, by the way, was that Mayo spoke to the press like off the record and was like, hey, this is going to be a 3-year process. Like, don't be surprised if we're a little rough for the next couple of years.
All right. Who's the first quarterback selected? I mean, who is the first non-quarterback selected off the board?
It's going to be Marvin Harrison Jr.
At 4 to Arizona?
Yeah. Or 5 to the Chargers.
Would it surprise you if it was Malik?
Yeah, I think Malik Neighbors is a good player, but I think that it goes without being said that the NFL is gung-ho over a guy. Yeah, bloodline. That is always a box being checked for the NFL.
Sorry. I actually, as much as I do, and again, biased, think that Malik gives you a lot more different things. I do think a team will select him before because of what you just said. If his name was Marvin Smith Jr. instead of Marvin Harrison Jr., I do not believe he would go there.
I don't agree with that part. I mean, he's still supremely talented, and
I don't think he would be the first non-quarterback selected.
Oh yeah, I think it'd probably be Joe Alt, which is ironic because he
100%.
also has NFL bloodlines, so that's how that would work. BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts.